First of all, introducing our challenger.
Out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in and he does. It's all over.
Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
All right, everybody, welcome back and thank you for joining us here once again for another edition of the Eternal Insiders Podcast. As you can see, we are being joined by the man who was only on the program less than a week ago, talking about his upcoming fight at Eternal 86 to face off against John Varkey for the Eternal MMA Welterweight Championship. And as you can see right here, he's come away successful. He's got the belt sitting there. It's looking good. It's looking good. Add another one to the collection, baby. Lachlan Deadshot Stitt out of Triple X Fight Academy. Long time no speak, man. Short week. Glad to have you back on here, man. Coming away with that win. Another title for you to put around your waist. It's only been a couple of days, brother. How is everything now for you now that you've had a bit of distance away from the fight, man? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling emotionally? I know it was a whirlwind experience. It was a hell of a fight. How are your thoughts and feelings at this point in time?
Yeah, good, man. Just trying to sort of process everything. It's still a little bit surreal, you know, when I see the belt. It's like, you know, only 2 years ago I was making my debut on Eternal, and now to have, you know, the division belt in my possession is unreal. It's kind of starting to set in, but yeah, it's very surreal. You know, all the support that I've got, all the messages, you know, from everyone, I appreciate. Everyone that's reached out and love yous all. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's great to finally hold this belt.
I think I saw on Instagram, you might have even said, like, you know, thank you everyone for the support as far as everyone reaching out to me, that sort of thing. I'll do my best to get back to you. I think that might have been you. There might have been a few fighters that said something similar, but I mean, even in terms of that reception, I mean, was this sort of more than you've sort of ever had before in terms of people just reaching out, congratulating you and thinking like, holy shit, like there's so many people to get back and thank. There must have been a lot of people reaching out. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. And that's great. You know, win, lose or draw, you know, people always, you know, show support to me and all that, but it's great to get, you know, such an achievement and everyone sort of, you know, makes an effort to reach out. That's followed my career, you know, since I was just a teenager, and people I haven't spoken to in a while have reached out. And, you know, the local radio station, you know, where I'm from up in Mackay, Queensland, I've done an interview for them, you know, that's been great. So yeah, well, Liam Para, I don't know if you know, he won the world championship in boxing. He's from Mackay, same small mining town as me. So it's great that we're both putting them on the map through combat sports.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, man. The reception everywhere, like even just like on sort of social media and everything, you know, like even sort of your local pages and that sort of stuff and some of the high profile ones, you know, talking about the performance and everything, just how good it was. I mean, even just top to bottom of the card, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on the card at large. I don't know if you've had sort of much of a chance to kind of look at all the other fights, but I mean, at this point in time, it's being called pretty much like the greatest Australian MMA card that we've ever sort of had, especially for how the sort of the fights turned out, and especially for how yours kind of turned out, man. Like, what are your thoughts in terms of how that card was and how cool it sort of feels to be at the top of that?
Well, unreal, man. You know, Eternal once again put on another epic performance, and when I got to the Sharks and we were watching the fights in the back, Christian Lapham, wow. That was a crazy fight as well. He put on a great performance. You know, Dim Skilly's obviously, he's always fun to watch. That was an unreal fight. I'm keen to see him, you know, go for the belt and all that. That's going to be very exciting. But yeah, man, it was just an awesome show. The crowd was super pumped up. It was mad walking out into the atmosphere. You know, they had, you know, people, the Tongan community cheering for John, and you know how, you know, animated they get and passionate they get. And then I had some of my own, you know, supporters there and people from around Australia that have flown there to watch. And it was just, it was awesome atmosphere. As always, it was great.
It was a wild show, man. I think they said it was the largest turnout they've had at the Southport Sharks ever, which was really cool. Yeah. It's just growing all the time, man. Like, you know,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Sports is growing like crazy, sort of all around the country. It's really cool to see.
I love the Sharks. I love fighting there because everyone is so close to the cage. I feel like they get a better experience, and like fighting in there, you feel like everyone's closer. It's a mad feeling. It's good.
I think that'd be cool. I think when we spoke to you on the show last week, you did say it'd be cool for you to fight in Sydney. I don't know if you know anything about that venue in Sydney, the Liberty Hall or whatever it's called.
I've never.
It's like a fight pit sort of thing, man. It's like it's so like everyone's on top of the action, and you got like sort of the second level above is like everyone kind of looking down into the cage and that sort of thing. Like everyone's sort of right on top. So if that's sort of a reality, I mean, who knows what's in your future as far as, how quickly you kind of go on to bigger and better things. But that'd be cool to get you on a Sydney card there, man. But even in terms of the reception, the team, Triple X Fight Academy, obviously know what kind of a close-knit unit you guys are. The reception from those guys, were you sort of, treated like sort of the new king in town? Like what's the celebrations been like for you and the team?
Yeah, man, it's great. The Triple X community, even coming, when I lost, they still show love. And then, coming into the gym with a belt, they're all super pumped for me. And, we win as a team, lose as a team. And it was great to, show even the younger boys, the amateurs, the guys that are just sort of getting into the sport, just to sort of let them see, the fruits of hard work over the years and all the sacrifices, and then that it does really, dreams do come true, and you sacrifice stuff and things will happen.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the younger guys at your gym now, I mean, that is now officially, 2 welterweight champions who we've had in just, like, as far as the sort of the gyms go, like it's sort of one of more kind of under the radar gyms in Australia or kind of this sort of region. So to have, 2 champions in the same weight division, Eternal's greatest promotion, it's a very cool thing to see.
Against the same gym as well.
Of course, yes. Yeah. I didn't even think about that detail. That is very cool. Yeah, it's like a sort of a semi-little fight within the war there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely cool. And, very cool to see Caleb getting himself back in the action as well. We saw that announcement yesterday. Of course, that isn't for Eternal, but I mean, just for you guys, like, as far as a unit and that sort of thing, and Caleb being, a guy that's fought in Eternal and held the belt in Eternal, just great to see both of you guys in action, man, and to see you with the championship belt. Not long after he sort of held it, is certainly a very cool thing. In terms of the performance too, man, like, you in your young career, obviously known as a knockout artist, places to be, get the job done early and everything. We're in and out kind of thing. And this is the first time you didn't even quite go the distance because you finished the fight in the 5th round. But, I mean, look, just your thoughts in terms of getting a bit of distance from the fight, thinking back to the sort of the performance at large, because it certainly wasn't an easy fight, but you had a lot of incredible moments there, man. Like, what's sort of your initial assessment in terms of your performance, how you'd sort of grade yourself?
I think I showed that I have matured in my fighting style, and my patience in there, was a lot better. I knew he was tough. I knew when I hit him and I dropped him, I knew he has a chin on him, and to put him away was going to be very, very difficult. So I didn't want to rush those things, and I'm happy to get the rounds in. I felt great in there between rounds. My coaches were super impressed with my fitness. I was listening in the corner. I was listening to what they were saying during the fight. They were yelling out things, and I was doing them instinctively. So that was great. And John's super strong, super strong. He's the strongest guy I've fought for sure. Super strong in the wrestle and all that. He obviously got a couple of takedowns and stuff. It was hard to get back up, but I just kept sort of grinding. I knew I was mentally ready for that grind. And I knew coming in he was going to be a tough, and he would have brought out, the best in me, which he did. So I'm super, pumped with my performance, and there's a couple things that we need to work on, which we'll address, when I get back to full training again, once I'm healed up and all that. But I'm happy with my performance.
I think it's sort of, at this point in your career, man, in my personal opinion, like kind of the perfect outing in terms of how the fight sort of went from start to finish, just in terms of like how invaluable that kind of cage time would sort of be, because, we know what you've done already early in your career with a couple early knockouts and that sort of thing. At some point, to get that kind of fight in early in your career to sort of set you up for whatever fights are going to come in your future, but still get a finish, mind you, like get to the 5th round, still get a finish, something you can celebrate there, but still get that cage time in, go into the championship rounds, could have you done it much better? Like, would you take having an experience like that and still getting the finish, or would you still prefer to sort of get the job done early? Like, what's your sort of thoughts on that?
In this stage of my career, I'm glad that it went the distance.
Yeah.
Obviously, any fighter will say it's great to get an early finish.
You'd love
it's
to
awesome.
finish your career with a knockout in every single first round and 18-0. Yeah, great. But like,
crazy. But at this stage of my career, I think I needed that, and I needed to be pushed, and I needed to show that I can handle going into those deeper rounds and being pushed. John had me on my back, for a length of time during the fight, and I stayed calm and worked to get back up and used the things that I've been working on.
John's wrestling ability, in terms, you just touched on like how strong he is, definitely the strongest opponent you would have faced, as you said, which isn't surprising because he's a former Commonwealth grappler, former Commonwealth wrestler. So it certainly comes no surprise. I mean, you factor in the experience level that he comes in with, fighting out of city kickboxing, all those things are considered. Stronger than you imagined he would be, like not as strong as you sort of thought he was, like about kind of right. How did he kind of, match up in terms of your expectations of him?
I knew he was going to be strong, and he definitely lived up to that. Like, I was training with a lot of middleweights, light heavyweight Russian fighters like Dagestanis in Thailand, preparing for him. So I made sure that I was ready for that strength. And he was super strong, and just relentless with the wrestle. Like, he was just constantly just that wrestling style, that grind, just constant pressure. Which was good, and I was loving it, man. I was loving every minute of it. It was sick. Even being on my back, up kicking him, hammer fisting him from the bottom, it was sick, bro. It was a mad experience.
It had everything, man, and you looked like you were thriving in certainly all those situations, whether it was, you or him in the kind of the dominant positions. And what was interesting in the opening round, you initiated that first takedown.
Yeah, I took him down, yeah.
Was that... Yeah. Like, I'll be honest, was that part of the initial game plan that you were going to sort of turn, I guess, the expectations of what people kind of had on its head? Like, what were you sort of thinking?
Not really. We just my timing, just sort of kicked in.
It just presented itself,
it just presented itself, and I just took the opportunity, and it worked out. I had the opportunity to shoot and duck under I think it was his left hook or something, and got the takedown, and then controlled it from there. So I think that would have surprised him coming out. I don't think you would have been expecting that at all.
No, I mean, I think, look, who knows what, maybe John was sort of thinking, but I mean, I think, of course, probably the way everyone looked at this on paper was, can John sort of, maybe weather an early flurry from yourself from the start as an early striking finisher, and can Lockie kind of withstand the grappling and hopefully outlast John? And then, you go ahead and get an early takedown. It's like, oh, holy shit, this is going to be like a full-on MMA fight. Obviously, I mean, between two high-level guys. You showed off everything. I mean, you got the submission finish, of course, which I don't know if anyone had that on their bingo card as far as Lachlan Stitt getting a fifth-round submission finish. In the training camp, was that something – I know this is mixed martial arts, right? And you're training for everything, and I know you have big belief in your entire sort of game, but was this something that you either talked about with your coaches or something you had in your mind, like, hey, I really do think – a submission is a big time possibility, or did it just kind of come and you're like, oh, we're taking it now, here it is?
Not really, man. Like, even doing interviews coming up to the fight, I knew it was going to be tough. And so we prepared for everything, striking, wrestling, and also submissions. I was drilling, back control during the week, leading up to the fight and stuff like that. Defending the back control if that was the case. So we sort of covered all areas. Because we knew how many weapons John had, training under, Eugene city kickboxing and stuff. So he's well prepared for everything. So I needed to be just as prepared in every situation.
I think, it wasn't just the fact that, you were surviving in the positions that he kind of had you in, but I mean, you were thriving all around in sort of the positions you were dominant in too. It wasn't just I'm a mixed martial artist, so, of course, I got a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of grappling, that sort of thing. You were showing off some pretty, advanced stuff, and the way you were chaining things together, ultimately the way you sort of got the submission and everything, I think was a cut above, probably what even anyone sort of expected in terms of a level that you might have had, which was sort
just
of a really...
Just drilling it thousands of times, man,
And you said before, you're like, I have this stuff in my back pocket. But I think people say that, like, yeah, look, I've got things in my back pocket that people haven't seen, like in terms of the grappling. You proved that in this fight, which was cool.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying, like, for ages, but I just haven't got to show it.
Yeah, I mean, and this was the perfect sort of way to show it against like a high level grappler like that. Which was, I mean, look, you still showed off, obviously, what's kind of brought you to the dance so far in terms of the striking. I mean, you mentioned his chin and how hard you sort of put him away. You caught him in the first round with a pretty hard strike that sort of dropped him. What was your sort of thought? What was going through your mind at that point? Did you think the fight's over kind of here? Because, I mean, you did jump on him. You got into that sort of dominant position. Yeah. What did you feel in that sort of moment?
I saw his eyes go.
Yeah.
I think you can see on the highlight video, his eyes sort of go. And, like, he's out a little bit. And then when he falls to his back, I was looking at his eyes, like, while I was, trying to hit him. And I was like, this guy's, like, he's fine now. Like, I was like, how has he done this? Like, he's that tough. I was so surprised with how he's tough because I hit him hard. Like, they really connected. And he was okay. So, props to him, man. He's tough. But I was just trying not to rush and try not to panic and, just take it as it comes and just keep working. Just keep work, little shots from the top, work the elbows, fight the hands. His grip strength was super strong too.
Yeah.
I noticed that. It was hard to sort of fight the hands constantly and trying to get shots away. He was good at hiding his head on the bottom as well.
I think it was even in the second round because you caught him pretty early in the second round too, didn't you? Like a little combo and just sort of dropped him again. And then I think even from that point, you went straight on top, like straight into his half guard, I think as well.
Yeah.
I think even the commentary team sort of mentioned that Lockie's definitely looking to sort of show off this part of his game. Was there any sort of point during the fight when you had him in those positions that you thought maybe I'll get back up to the feet and sort of, was that sort of go through your mind, or did you think it's better to sort of have the position? Or
I was comfortable in those positions, and I was hitting him. It wasn't like we were just sort of like a stalemate. If it was, Hickman would have stood us up.
Yeah,
but
no, you were super active as shit. Like,
yeah, I was active from the top. I thought like, I'm comfortable here. He's not looking to get out. I'm just sort of teeing off here. I'm getting points, each shot. So. And that's all top control. It was all good for me as well. So just sort of try and flip the switch and grind him out in a way, and just like keep peppering him with shots. So I was happy, being on top and just grinding away.
No, you certainly you showed a lot in terms of the activity. I don't think there was too many points of the fight where there wasn't a lot of activity. I think the only real, I wouldn't even call it inactivity, but the only time it sort of got to those kind of almost sort of stalemate points was, I think, when John was sort of, controlling you maybe in the third or the I think it was the third or the fourth round. Actually, no, I think it was you that had the big control in the fourth round. But I think there was a moment in the second or third round where he took you for a ride across the cage. What was sort of going through your mind at that point as he sort of picked you up and taking off for a run?
When he picked me up, I was like, oh, here we go. And all I was thinking was just try and land.
Brace it.
Just try and land in a decent position to try and get up, like try and land on my side or something. Don't go straight to my back. But he threw me on the ground and I sort of fell on my back and then tried to sort of get back to my side. But once I was up, I wasn't breaking his grip. Like I just had to sort of accept getting dropped and try not to sort of fall in a bad position. So, that was pretty good takedown.
It was a pretty cool little highlight on his behalf, and you dealt with it incredibly well. I think there was even that moment towards the end of that round where he was sort of looking to get off his strikes on the bottom, and your return and fire like with those sort of up strikes and everything too. Like I think was there any was the sort of the danger light going off for you in terms of what he was kind of doing? Because I mean, conventional wisdom says like, oh man, like guard. I mean, for the people sort of watching. Your return and firing from the bottom, man, like trying to get your sort of strikes off, kind of Kevin Holland, Jacare Souza type stuff there. It was a cool moment.
I was just having so much fun in there, man. Like
you look like it, yeah.
The shots hurt a bit, no one likes getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
Like they were still stinging a little bit, but I was just like, I'm just gonna give some back here, I think it was like 30 seconds to go in the round or 20 seconds or something. So I was like, I'll give some back here. And I was just having fun in there, man. Just loving it.
I think that's cool. And it actually kind of brings me to sort of another point, because when I talked to you before the fight, and we talked a little bit off camera in terms of just your mentality coming into this fight versus the last fight against Peter. And you talked about just how you were sort of dealing with, things like the media and the build up and kind of the tag of being the most avoided welterweight and that sort of thing. And just dealing with this in a completely different way, which is quite remarkable because this is such a different fight with much higher, a lot more sort of on the line, a lot more sort of eyeballs and everything too. And I said to you that you looked and felt different too in the last interview we did. Like, you just seem more relaxed. You just seem more poised, completely sort of different to sort of your last one. I only sort of thought about that in hindsight when I sort of think back and go, you did seem like a little tense in that one. Did you even, I know you felt different coming into the fight. Like, once you'd sort of got in there, you talk about having fun in the cage and everything and just enjoying it. Was that everything that crossed over, just that change in mentality, even just growing up a little bit physically, mentally, like, did that kind of all just tie in together in this fight and you just felt kind of in that flow state?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That, explains it perfectly, a flow state. I was just, loving it, and the maturing that I've done, since that loss, showed in that fight. My last fight, I couldn't show it, finished obviously quicker, a minute and something. But this fight I actually got to show, my maturity and how I can cope in these stressful situations and being able to just have fun with it, man. We don't get to do this sport forever. That's what I've realized. Like, enjoy it now because, I'm not going to be able to do it forever.
Did you feel more free coming into this fight than that Templar fight?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I felt like very restricted back then. Like, I felt like jittery and just like, I was just, when I look back, I'm like, wow, I did not feel, very good at all. Now, I know who I am. I know what I need to do. I know my beliefs, my core values and stuff like that. I've had to, do a little bit of soul searching in the last 18 months, and I kind of know who I am now. So it's been great. Yeah.
Like I said, man, I think that's reflected in everything in terms of your body language and the way you talk and sort of you speak and everything. And again, this is all in hindsight because it's not something I even necessarily picked up on or anything that was even dramatic the first time we talked before the Templar fight. It's just something that you notice, that little bit of a shift, whatever it is. You seem like a different person. Like, you seem just, again, like, to your words, like, you just feel like you've developed, more maturity, just a different kind of approach to your game. And it reflected in the fight massively, man, because again, like, what a performance that was, sort of start to finish. The finish itself, talk us sort of through that. What were you sort of feeling from John? Because, I mean, you dominated the fourth round, right? You had him in control. You were in sort of half guard for the entire length of the fourth round, sort of cooking him on the ground there. Again, very active, getting off your own sort of shots and everything. Coming into the fifth round, what were you sort of thinking in terms of his energy levels? Did you feel like there was definitely a finish there? Or what were you even feeling at the end of the fourth round? Were you feeling like it's going to go the distance, or were you still thinking there was going to be a finish?
Yeah, I knew that fifth round was just going to come down to who wanted it more. Yeah. Like, honestly, I thought, we were 2-2, and we're just like ready to just, pretty much whoever wanted it more. And I was going to give it my everything, to get it. And then I think I went for like a switch kick and he got me down. I was like, no, I need to get up. I can't accept this bottom position.
Yeah. You tucked out and rolled backwards out of it?
I went for an up kick and then I was like, I pushed off him and rolled backwards and then took the back.
Yeah.
And then sort of like, I got the hook in and tried to get my back. And then he sort of peeled me off. And then I sort of reversed it. And then, once I got into he was in turtle and I just sort of opened up the hooks, got the hooks in. And I was like, okay, I've got back control now. Just stay patient. I've drilled this thing 1,000 times and it just sort of instinct took over. And then, the neck presented itself and we were warming up with that in the back. Me and Nathan Reddy, we were warming up with that in the back and just, my instinct took over and then boom, it was on.
You locked it in well, man. It was pretty incredible, to see. Again, like we mentioned, I don't think a lot of people thought that it was going to be Deadshot Stitt by submission, let alone fifth round submission. I don't think that's not like in any way kind of a knock on your abilities. I think it was just build so much as striker versus grappler. Can Lockie knock him out, or can John essentially like just cook him and kind of grind out, a win or, submit Lockie, that sort of thing. And just everything that we might have thought the fight, in terms of the direction it might have gone, just sort of completely flipped on its head, and you got to show everything. And again, I think that was the perfect sort of outcome, like to have the finish, to go the full 5 rounds, like perfect point in your career to sort of have that. A lot of emotion as well after the fight, head in your hands and that sort of thing. It must have been an incredibly cool moment for yourself. I'm sure it'd be very hard to sort of describe the emotions, but how much of that was, like a weight off your shoulders, and how much of it was just sheer joy? Like what was sort of the dominant emotions in that moment once you realized that I'm the welterweight champion now? Yeah,
it was obviously a surreal moment, and it was just pure joy and happiness, and just like not surprise, because like obviously I believe in my abilities. I knew I could do it. Like I knew I could beat him. Even if people didn't think I could beat him, they doubted me with the amount of experience that he had and stuff like that. I was going to prove them wrong. And to do that, I was just blown away with the experience, all the hard work that's gone on. I've had 2 back-to-back camps, since the start of the year. I haven't stopped training. Like after my last fight, I think I had like 5 or 6 days of like no training, and then I was back into like camp, like intense training, and then being over in Thailand. That was, so much hard work, every day in the heat. It was brutal. And then, to get that, finish after a card like that as well, the big build up, main event, my first Eternal main event on Fight Pass, was unreal. It was just a whole heap of emotions all at once. So it was great.
Incredible moment, incredible card, top to bottom. We talked when we had you on before this fight that, regardless of sort of the experience level, for yourself coming in against John Varkey, who has something like 20 more pro fights than you, and look, I didn't personally see anything, but, there's always like doubters and that sort of thing in all sort of corners about, should this person be in this position? But, as we've seen in the past, and we talked about in the last podcast, that Ben and Cam put people in these positions regardless of their pro record and that sort of thing, because they know that these people are ready for these positions. And you prove it. You come out with a massive win like that. For all intents and purposes, like you dominated pretty much most of sort of the fight. I do want to go back. You said before that you thought it was maybe 2-2 going into the last round. Did you actually think that, or were you just telling yourself that?
I thought that I didn't want to sort of get too like ahead of myself. I was
so maybe just thinking it's possibly it could be. Let's just imagine it's 2-2, so I can't let up in this 5th round kind of thing.
Yeah, throughout the fight, I was super hard on myself. I was like, damn it, he got me on my back. Shit, like, I'm down. I'm down on the rounds. I need to come back. I need to make sure I push in this last round. And that's what the coaches said to me in the corner.
Yeah.
Afterwards, they obviously told me, when I watched the fight back, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, however it went, I don't know how they scored. I don't know. I haven't seen the scorecards, but they told me that just to give me that boost as well. And I knew in my own head I needed to push, and whoever wants it more in this 5th round.
And obviously this fight was talked about for what comes next for you. Alden Bates obviously coming into the cage afterwards, being billed as sort of the next contender to your belt, being the champion now, which I believe is being looked at for that Perth card. Was that sort of the first time that you'd had any kind of face-to-face with Alden? Have you spoken to him in the past? Have you met him? Or was this your sort of first interaction with him?
No, I've never had any sort of interaction with him. Obviously, I've seen him fight. I watched the fight with him and John as well. But no, that was cool that he was there and able to get that done and all that. So I don't know what's happening with his belt, or I don't know what the go is there. I'm not sure what's happening, but in the next couple of weeks we'll unfold and we'll see what happens.
No, I mean, I'm sure anything that, look, I have no idea. Like, I'm only sort of going on by what's sort of on the broadcast and that sort of thing as far as what it's being billed as. But either way, I mean, it was a freaking cool moment to see you guys inside the cage. And I know, look, it was only sort of a brief moment. There's a lot of emotions going through your mind in terms, I just got done with the fight, and now I'm looking at a guy who's potentially my next opponent, sort of who knows. But, what was sort of that moment kind of like for you in terms of coming face to face with him? Like, we know he's a big dude, You've definitely got the height sort of advantage and everything there. But, what was that sort of, did you get a chance to kind of size him up and sort of get a bit of impression? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, he's a solid dude, man.
Yeah.
He hits hard and all that. He was nothing but nice and polite in the cage when he stepped in. He congratulated me. He said, great performance and whatnot, and he was nothing but nice. So it's always good, to have that mutual respect on the local scene, especially because we're all got the same goal, man. We all, do that, and there's no need to be, disrespectful to each other or nothing like that. I hate that stuff, man. So
sure.
No, that was good to show some mutual respect between me and Alden, and hopefully we can throw it down.
You did say last time we had you on the podcast, and obviously there's a few times last time we had you on the podcast, but last time we had you on the podcast, you did mention that you had watched their fight, John, when he fought against Alden back in Perth and that sort of thing. Obviously two different sort of styles of fights. When those guys fought, that kind of was the way we expected to play out. Alden throwing hell for leather and John just trying to grapple and that sort of thing. So two completely different sort of style of fighters in terms of potential matchups for you. Obviously you've gone through John now, but Alden a completely different sort of kettle of fish. Does this one get you more excited because it's like, look, this, as far as it being on paper, this is two dudes that just want to kind of strike. Like, what are your thoughts in terms of how you think mentally about how you might enjoy this fight compared to a John fight?
This will be good, striking fight, or if it does go to the grapple, wherever it goes, I'm super excited for this fight as well. Just as excited as it was, for the John fight. It's another tough opponent, and a way to showcase my skills and show and prove that I am the best welterweight in the country.
Last one before you go, man. Obviously, as far as if this fight does go down, that's still, I guess, to be officially confirmed. And I was mentioning the broadcast that this is what's sort of being looked at. But I mean, if that sort of ends up coming to fruition, that'd be the card. Obviously, before the UFC the next day in Perth and that sort of thing. I know this is still an early part of your kind of career, and sort of who knows what's kind of in your immediate future. But I mean, if this is something that does go down in terms of you being on this card, I'm assuming you've got to be looking at this as, look, whether this leads to me being in the UFC sooner rather than later. We know the connection that Eternal has to the UFC. We know that people attend these events and that sort of thing. And we know from speaking to previous fighters, look at guys like Quill and Sulky, they know who's out there, and they know who these young guys are. I'm imagining you're looking at this as look, not looking past the matchup in itself, but this is a big opportunity. If anything, this is the biggest opportunity as far as UFC being in town to really showcase my skills on top of a UFC event.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I knew, I didn't look past John at all, but I knew what this belt entails, if that makes sense. I knew the path that this belt leads to, obviously, with Jack doing what he's done and whatnot, the other champions that have gone on to UFC, Steve Erceg, Quillen, that's in there now. I knew I didn't sort of look past that, but, it's good to get, John out of the way and then move on to the next part, whether that is, that next international or defend the belt, whichever. But I'm just keen to, have that next step in my career. And I'm only going to get, more mature. My fighting's only going to evolve. I'm still training, I'm only going to get better. I'm only 24. So
it's wild.
I have a huge career. So I just got to be smart with, my training and stuff like that. And look after my own health is the main thing.
No, it was certainly very cool to see everything that's developed for you, man, especially from that mentality side of things and how far you've come in such a short space of time. A lot of the things that you've sort of been through in terms of the early parts of your career, like not being able to get fights, and then, the circus around you eventually getting a fight and sort of having to sort of deal with the mental aspect of that, going through sort of all that adversity in the young part of your career, coming through all that, get yourself back in the win column, come back in against a guy that's got 20 more pro fights and you put an absolute masterclass that you did on the biggest stage of them all at Eternal 86 on UFC Fight Pass, on top of what is essentially being called the best card that we've had in Australian MMA history. Certainly the way that it turned out on paper, because every fight was just fucking fireworks from top to bottom. So a very awesome. 100%, man. And anyone that didn't see that card, go back and watch it on UFC Fight Pass. It's up there now.
So many people have messaged me, and all my friends, that I spoke to, even at the gym, they said, bro, I woke up on Sunday and I rewatched the whole card.
Oh, man. Yeah.
People have watched it 2 or 3 times even, they've told me. So it was a hectic card, and it was unreal. Straight
up. And I know that you did say you were sort of paying attention sort of in parts, but I'm sure a lot of your mental energy is being devoted to the fact that you are fighting on top of that card at
I
the
was
end
trying
of
to
it.
warm up. I'm looking at the screen as well, going, and just as I was walking, just I was getting ready to walk out, Dimps is still fighting.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the screen, looking at that wall, and that was pumping me right up, bro. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, man. You had some big shoes to fill. I think even from the opening prelim, man, I think it was Alexis Roger, or I think his name was, but I'm taking a sip of my tea and I look up and he's knocking the bloke out in the first seconds of the fight. I'm like, holy shit, this is setting the tone. And then just every fight from there was just like knockout submissions and just crazy fight after crazy fight. And you top it off at the end there, man, with incredible performance, as we said. So
it was awesome.
100%, brother. And congratulations again, man. Like I said, very cool to see how everything's transitioned to this point in your career. Very excited for you in terms of your age and everything that you're sort of setting yourself up for. And, if we get that Alden fight come together in Perth, before the UFC, sign me up, man. But I know you're down for whatever sort of comes next. So we'll talk again, man, at some point. If we're promoting the next fight for you defending the strap, whatever it is, man. I can't wait. Congratulations again. And enjoy this, man, because it's these are moments in your career and you got to celebrate them and you got to drink it all in. So we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Luke. Appreciate it. Thank you to everyone.
All the best, brother.